Okay, this is chapter 9, sequential access files and menus. Now, in addition to getting data from the keyboard and sending data to the computer screen, the application can also read data from and write data to a file on a disk. Use sequential access files in the applications coded in this chapter and apply the concepts. Okay. What you're going to learn is sequential access files, sequential access output files, sequential access input files. I think I'll come over here, introduce. Down here, you got menus and toolbars. So a lot of the different options you'll see here are such that they will provide some kind of way for you to interface with other screens, with other options under the menus and toolbars. You see, there's this menu strip right here, and if I drag and drop that over here, it puts the menu strip down here, and you see where it says type here. This is where you can type. Wow. I'm designing a menu like this has, where I do a file here and it pops down with new and open and so forth. So if I click that, I can put new here. Open. Clone or checkout code. And so on. All the way down to exit. Now, what I did on this last one for this exit is I typed this ampersand. I know that's pretty small. I typed the ampersand. And when I did that, it puts a line underneath the X. You can do the same thing with the file. You could put the ampersand in front of the F, like that. And again, you can't hardly see it. I don't know if I can make that bigger or not, to be honest. Let me see if I choose the menu strip, font. Never have tried to make it bigger. 15. Now you can see that little line a little bit better, maybe. If I run this, used to be you could actually see the lines, but it doesn't look like that's by default now. I don't know if you could change that. But if I do Alt F and then I do X for exit, so the Alt F brings this up, and the X would run the exit code. That's for people who don't like to keep using their mouse to go and choose these. They'd rather do it quickly. For example, when I'm in Notepad, here, and see the F here and the S here? If I do Alt F S, that brings up the save. And test, like that. And anytime I make changes, I don't actually use my mouse, I just do Alt FS, and that saved it. So people like those shortcuts. Oftentimes, they'll put the shortcut to the side of it, like that, so you can see, if you do Control S, that'll take you directly to saving it, the form1.db. Alt F4 will exit you out automatically. So if I'm right here and I want to exit out, everything's saved, I do Alt F4 and it'll exit me out of that. Now that's menu. And I'll just do something real simple here. Text box. Actually, we put a label. Label. It's label 1, label 2. If I change this to, like, remember where we had force calculation and midpoint, where we had different ones there. On these, I'll have them change the labels. So nothing exciting, but it does show you how you interface with the menu in code. So I got force showing here. And if I double click it, then the default is the open tool strip menu item click. And this one is force, I think. So label 1 dot text equals to force equals mass times acceleration mass. And label 2 dot text equals acceleration. Okay, so this other one then should show something that has 2, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. I'll double click midpoint here. And label 1 dot text equals to, I don't know, x1. Label 2 dot text is equal to x2. And now if I run that, if I choose that and choose that force, it runs that bit of code. If I choose midpoint, it runs that bit of code. More appropriate would be, we've already showed how you open up a new form. More appropriate might be to open up the form for calculating midpoint. Open up the form for doing whatever. All right, that's a menu. Now, there's other ones here. That's really the only one I've ever programmed. I assume the context menu strip is where you could apply this to some kind of component. Like if I have label 1 shows here, let's see if this is a true statement. I'm just curious since I've never programmed it. If I drop that on, and I probably need to tell it what it's related to. I'm guessing. Items. Add to list below. I won't play with it then since I don't know. I've never in real life had to actually use the context menu. I'll delete that. Only thing I've ever wanted is the menu here. If I was going to work for Microsoft, then I'd need to know what those do. Status strip is down at the bottom. Tool strip is those we'll actually use because those are more meaningful. Not that this isn't it, but people that work in industry, unless you work for someplace that's selling software, for the most part, your documentation is kind of minimal for the maybe wrong reasons. Being able to right click here is actually nice, brings up this context sensitive menu. And it's different based upon what you right click on. Okay. Anyway, that's a menu. I wanted to start with that because that's the easier one. Let me delete those. And go back to my code and get rid of those since that'll break them. Not that sequential access files are that hard. Okay. The data are composed of a sequence of characters, which programmers refer to as a stream of characters or character stream. So if you ever hear of a output stream or input stream, so forth, they're referring to that stream of characters that's coming in from a file. This has a bunch of characters in here that are coming in. Okay. Sequential access files means you just go through it line by line. So there's no special indexing there. There is a random access files that has keys built in so you can use it. And if I don't think it's in this chapter, but if it is in a book, we're not going to cover it. I'm going to try to get us to use more of SQL databases and Firebase. That's my goal for that. Random access files aren't bad, but it stores them in binary format. And so if you get one bit out of place, your binary file is corrupt, which isn't good if you don't got a good backup. If you create an application for Sam's Barbershop, and he uses it to keep track of his customers and so forth. Well, if you're using a random access file, one bit gets screwed up, and then the file is no longer where you can even access it. You can't even use utilities to recover anything from it. So it's kind of gone by the wayside. XML is not a bad storage format. Anyway, these are called text files because they can be opened and modified by text editors such as Notepad. So you can see the text. And here's goes through the steps. So we'll walk through their example here. Use the stream. Step 1. Use the streamwriter class to declare a streamwriter variable. So dim outfile as io.streamwriter. And you see there's also a private outfile as io streamwriter. I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna put one here. Add numbers 1 to 10. Okay, and then I'm gonna put my answer in a label. Okay, so this one, I'll have it say answer. This one, I'll call it LB underscore answer, since I don't know where I'm headed with this yet, but so I kind of got an idea of what else I want to do, but I'm not sure how it'll go time-wise. Because I'd like to load a list box, I'd like to load in files from something I create in Notepad and show you that, but we'll see. Okay, so when I click this, double click that, here's where we put our code. And okay, so we'll come back to that. Save that somewhere. And TMP is a good one. And numbers.txt. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to demonstrate how to write out to a file. So back to here, dim out file as io dot. Now there's a lot of different writers. This one's a stream writer. You see there's a binary writer, file streams, StreamWriter, StringWriter. So StreamWriter and StringWriter. So different ways you can work with it. And they say to use StreamWriter. The out file can be called whatever you want. All the rest of it has to be exactly as you see it. Now that declares it, gets it ready to use. Now to create, you see, use either the create text method or the append text method to open a file. Create would create a brand new. So if we want to create a brand new file, we would do out file equals io.file.createText. So out file equals io dot, and then file dot create text. I don't got this memorized, so that's why I'm flipping back and forth. Wish I had that good of memory. Now it used to be you had to put 2 slashes, but I noticed in their example they just have 1 slash here. So we'll try that. And I called the other one numbers. So I call this numbers 2. Okay, so that creates our file for writing it out. At that point, we want to write our data. Now, there's 2 different types of writes, and you'll see this in a lot of different places. The write writes it, but then just stays where it is. The write line goes down to the next line. So when you do the write line, it'll put it on separate lines. So if I say out file dot write line, and this is where you can write like a string. And then the out file dot, after we get done writing it, we'll want to close it. So that's step 4 there. Okay, so let's run this. Choose that, and then I'll choose that option there. Probably been better if I had it pop up and tell me it was done, but I didn't. I don't know where I wrote it out here. I got so many files under there. Did that in another class too. I think I created this temp2 just so I'd have smaller files. Excuse me. So let me come here and change this to temp2 and run it again. Okay. So now numbers2.txt is a file that's here, and if I double click it, you see it has my text in there. Okay. Now if I do out file dot write line test2, run that. Okay. So now you see this test2 here. Now on the other hand, if I change these to just writes, and I should actually run it just before I go open file. Then they're on the same line. Like I said, it just stays where it is. The other one goes down the next line. Okay, now what we really want to do is we want to write out numbers from 1 to 10. So this is what we do. We declare it, we open it for creation purposes, and we then close it. What that's is it right line? No memory. I think it was right line. Yeah. Different programming languages do it different. Some are like print line, print ln. Some are print line spelled out. There's all kinds of variations of it. But what the line always means the same thing. It means goes down the next line. Okay. So if I run that, and notice what we get. Test 2. Okay. Back to here. Besides create text, there was append text. So if I change this from create to append, if I run that and choose the there, it appends it on the end of the file. So if you're wanting your file to keep track of something, this is how you do it. An application I'm working on for the Union Rest Commission is such that they want a log file to know who made changes. For example, if you delete they got riders that they drive around in Wichita to work, homeless people in the program, and if somebody deleted one of those records, they want to be able to see who it was. So the append is what I would use to build a log file. Now you have to be careful about that because if you just keep appending for eternity, your file is going to become so huge it'll eventually crash the computer. Eventually, it all depends on how many log entries you have. So you do different things on that. Maybe you have your program when it first starts up, copy off the log file once a week. So it checks what day it is. If it's Monday, it copies it off and it creates a brand new log file. And so when you append on, then you're not building this forever. We made this mistake one time. I don't remember if it was me or somebody else. We created a log file for a server that was running. It was a server we had wrote to intercept emails, so that we had trouble with our emails going out consistently. It wasn't nice and stable like it is now, back in the dark ages. And so sales was concerned because they were sending emails to customers, and what the emails wouldn't go through; they'd get lost. And so somebody contact them and say, "Hey, I'm interested in buying $200,000 worth of spectrum analyzers." And sales would email them back, say, "Hey, that sounds fantastic. I'd like to set up an appointment with you." And the customer would never receive the email. So they had these visions that we'd lose these $200,000 contracts, which, if somebody never responded back to me, I would hope I would email them back, because email isn't as reliable as you might think. But if I didn't, and I just assumed the worst, then you'd lose that business. And so we had our own machine sitting there, and the emails would go there first, and then it would check for our email server to be up and running. And if the email server was connecting and everything looked good, then it would send the emails. Well, any issues we had, we at first wrote it out to a text file like this. We eventually changed it to a database file after the machine crashed. That log file kept getting bigger and bigger, and it would go through and check every record stored out in that database on that machine, looking for problems. And any problems, we would automatically write to this text file. So not a smart thing. So anyway, long story to say, be careful about append text. Okay, now I want to write out the numbers from 1 to 10, like I indicated. And I'll go ahead and do a create on this. So it creates a brand new file each time. Let's see. I get this confused each time. For X from 1 to 10. 1 to 10. Okay, I'm going to cheat for x equals 1 to 10. There we go. I wish Visual Basic was like every other language. So now I'm going to write these out. Now notice when I do that, it has a lot of overloads. It says 1 of 18. That means there's a lot of different things I can do with this. And there's a Boolean, character, array of characters, decimal, double, integer. We're working with integers here. It doesn't matter. So if you're wondering, do I need to convert it to a string? No, you don't. The right line appears to handle that just fine. And now get rid of these and run that. And add numbers 1 to 10. Okay, so if I come out here and look now, you see we got a file of numbers 1 to 10. Well, probably I named that poorly. I should have probably said like write out numbers or something like that. You don't want to get write out paragraphs up here. Menus are meant to be short and concise, not real wordy, but we'll go with that. This one, I'll say add numbers 1 to 10. This is going to read in our file. So this wrote out our, and this is going to read in our file and add the numbers up, which should be the next part of this. Okay. So, and if you have any questions on this, be sure to ask. Okay. Sequential access output. Okay. Pin text. That talks about those. Assuming they'll have nice little boxes again. Okay. Sequential access input files. I must have went right past it. Could you make it any smaller? Okay, here's going to be the steps for using an input file. You see it says use the stream reader class to declare a stream reader variable. Well, you probably could have guessed that. Before we did a dim out file as io.streamWriter. Well, see, there's a stream reader. Not that you can really see that, but it's there. Okay. So dim in file as io.streamReader. Now, here it says use the exist method to determine whether the input file exists, and that's not a bad thing to do before you try to open it. Because if it doesn't exist, then why are you trying to open it? It'll just blow up. So I say if io.file.exists, and then your file name. So if io.file.exists and C :/tmp2 numbers2.txt, then this will return true or false. So it goes out there and checks the existence of the file. And if it's true, then I want to open the file up, which is the next step. Step 3, if the exist method determines it exists, then we'll do our io.file.openText file name. So, I don't think it's equals. No, it's a little bit different. io.file. Open text. Okay, and then c:\temp2.numbers2.txt. Okay, so that's going to open our text. Now, you can read it line by line, but if you don't know how many lines you're going to have, then you don't know how many of them to put in there. What this will do different is we're declaring a string line of text, and you can call that whatever you want, but it has to be string. And do until infile.peak is equal to -1. And then string line of text equals infile.readLine. And here I made that big statement earlier that I never want to use a do until. Could I program this without it? Let me think. I spoke too soon. Oh well. Hang my head in shame and use the do until. Okay, so do until infile.peak. Infile, as I called it, .peak. Now this is giving us an idea if the file's empty. You see it says returns the next available character but does not consume it. And it returns it as an integer. Does not consume it, doesn't use it. So it's still there and so forth. And when it's at the end of the file, there is no next available character. That's why it returns a -1. Equals -1. And then read line. Decided to declare my string. Of course, I'm in Visual Basic. Don't use another link. Don't use Java. String. Okay, so string is equal to in file dot read line. Now notice there's nothing else in there. This read line, do I need parentheses on that? No, I don't. Okay. This read line reads the current line and it progresses the pointer. So the read line is what keeps progressing the pointer down. And eventually, the pointer is going to be at the end of the file, and there is nothing else. And I know I could program that without that. It'd be a lot harder. There are ways easier. Flag, except for not in C#. Dim flag as integer. Flag equals to infile.peak, while flag is not equal to -1. W-end. What doesn't it like? Is it a do on there? Match. The what? I didn't hear all that. Oh, in Visual Basic. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm programming another language. Okay. This morning, what I'd done wrong. And is it not W end? End while. End while. Okay. And then string is equal to end file dot read line. Then I do the flag, I guess. Okay, I concede there's a purpose for do until, I guess. I think that would work. A lot harder. Visual Basic Gaming. Okay. Okay, so we bring in that, and then we want to do something with it. It's currently a string, so I need, I guess, my sum. Sum is equal to 0. And sum is equal to sum plus, and this could create issues right here. Integer dot parse. We're going to pretend everything's good and go with it, if assuming it doesn't blow up. And then I need to write out my result. I think I called lb answer dot text is equal to sum dot toString. Okay. I think I got it. Oh, I didn't close my file. It should close it automatically. It's good practice to close it when you're done with it, though. Or have it blow up. Exception unhandled. Ah. Bad programming. Bad programming. Attempt 2. There we go. Some languages, you have to enclose your file processing in exception handling. Still doesn't like something. Do until end file. Let's see what I forgot. I thought I typed everything they had in there. Oh, bad programming. Can't even copy code. That's bad. End file equals. Okay, let's try that now. $55. Guess that's right. Should show numbers I could actually have checked. Now, where you potentially could have problems is if you have something that's not something that could change to a integer. Some programming languages, if you have a space there, then that'll cause problems. I don't know if Visual Basic will. We'll try it. Okay, right out to numbers, add to numbers. Yeah. See, and it didn't like the fact, if I put my mouse over that, it says string is a space. So there's different error checking you'd probably want to do on that to make sure it doesn't cause you issues like that. Now you might say, well, why would I want to put a spacer? You wouldn't, but somebody over in whoever's creating the input file for you might do that by accident. So for example, if I'm over in Excel, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would hope that unless I actually press my space bar here, it would not save that. Let's see. Do a file save as, browse, change it to my TMP2 folder. Change this. You see there's a text file you can save it as. I'm going to save it as a CSV. And nums.csv. Okay, click save. Yeah. Now close it, and it'll ask me to save it again. I never have figured that one out. Okay, save. Nums.csv. So come here and change this. The nums.csv. In case you're wondering, there's a way to bring up the file open dialog box, which we'll be looking at. Okay. Now, first off, I guess I'd show it. Here's nums.csv. If I right click on it, if I double click it, it'll just bring up an Excel. But if I right click on it, open with Notepad. Question is if there's anything extra here at the end. You wouldn't necessarily see it in Notepad. But this is like where you have a user that creates information for your program over in a spreadsheet, and you haven't saved it. It's best to have a macro save it. That way you can control all the different things, so they can't put anything weird in it. But if you didn't do that, let's see what this does. Okay, add the numbers. 55. Okay. So it looks like I didn't put anything. But then the question would become, is if I was in Excel, and you put a space bar, press space bar there, now save it. Assuming it's still in CSV format. Yeah, okay. And close that. Don't save. Now if I run that, just blew up. This is why it's so important that if you were to have and users love Excel, by the way. If you tell them they can put all their data in Excel, then they're happy. But you want to be able to, over in your spreadsheet, to write a VBA, which is Visual Basic. So if you can write Visual Basic here, you can easily pick up the oddities of VBA. You can control that so that you don't have the issues like that happen. Or you can program it here to handle that. Okay, let's see what else is in here. I do it line by line whenever I've done this in real life, but you can read the entire file in at once. This is like a true stream, because the stream is such that it just kind of flows in all at once. This is where you bring it all in. And there's times when that'd be, I think, useful, and then close it like I had forgot to do. You see, it didn't hurt anything, but it's bad programming practice. I guess I don't want to close it there. It should be within the if statement, just in case the file doesn't exist. In file close. Let's see, is there anything else on that one? Nope. I guess I can make it back to smaller size. Let's see if there's anything else interesting here. There's a read to end example. Give you. Okay, so let's say, not that you'd want to do this, But let's say that I had a file containing my states. Because the problem with the file is that it's specific to potentially, there's other ways around it, but it could be specific to just that machine. Better way is to have a database of some sort. You could say, I've seen where they've saved files like on a shared network resource, but still it's better for a database. Okay, so these are all the states we can do business with. And it's pretty sad that I'm sitting there drawing a blank on states. I can name 4. I can think more thing, but that's all I can think of right offhand. So okay, so I'll save this, save my TMP2 folder again. Imagine instead of it being saved in a text file, you're accessing a database and pulling this information. Okay, so states.txt. And my list box, there it is. And give this LB or LBox underscore states. And I'm going to put another option here, load states. Okay, so I'm going to cheat in the interest of time. And what I call it, states.txt. Instead of having it in 2 places here, not that you'd ever have it hard coded anyway, that's bad practice, but you could do a string up above. Okay, so now I'll load those in, and it's coming into str, so then I'll do my lbox states dot items dot add str. Get rid of that. Close the file. I think that's everything. So I'll come here and choose load states and then load my states in. You could also have and now it's such that if I were to come in here and I could actually think of another state like Wyoming, where we do business with another state, it gets added. And then over here, of course, this won't clear it, so it'll double it. But you now see Wyoming there. You could have it do that when it goes into the application. So on load, it'll build this dynamically for you, so it'll automatically change. We're going to look at how to do that with SQL, and we'll also look how to do that with Firebase, because we don't want it to be off of a text file. Text files are really old school. They do have their purposes, but they're not as useful as they used to be. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. I showed write into a file, read into a file. Showed appending. I showed how to load a list box. That's where I got this from their example, because I'm guessing that when you click the read from file, it loads this in. Write to file, it probably takes this and writes it to the end, so it does a append text, if I had to guess. Okay, I think I got time. I already showed you a little bit about menus. Let's see if I remember how to do a dialog box. Let's see. Open file dialog. Click and drag it on there. And it's down here. Open file dialog 1. And there's initial directory, C:temp2. Okay. So I'm going to choose here to put like I do a file. Boy, this is as non-standard as it gets. Open. And open file dialog 1 dot opens the file selected dot show dialog. Do I need any other parameters? That's gonna be too easy. Now that's not gonna actually do anything there, besides potentially open it up, assuming I got the syntax correct. But you do a file open, and it opens up with this. So now you could, instead of hard coding your file name, you can come here and choose which one. Okay, so let's see how to get which one. This is the part about programming is you don't, unless you have a fantastic memory, you're not going to memorize all this. You got to know how to use the resources available to you. Some people do have fantastic memory. But unless you work with this every day, when you do a dot, this will come up and you look for something that looks like something what you want, like title, gets or sets a file dialog. That's obviously not it. I see there was a open file here. As IO stream opens a file selected by user with read-only permission. This file is specified as the file dialog file name property. So the file dialog file name property. That tells me the file name is what I want. Gets or sets a string containing the, so gets. Okay. So file name is the one I want. So dim s file name as string. S file name equals and now paste that in. I don't need this. Instead of hard coding the name here, I'm going to use S file name, assuming that includes the directory. I think it does, but we'll see. Some packages I've worked with, it doesn't. It just gives you the raw file name, like states.txt, and you have to append on the directory. Some get rid of. Okay, I think that should be it. Famous last words. Let's run that. Okay, file open. States.txt and loads it in. Now there is an issue that if you do a file open here, and notice how this says the file name here, and I click open, the file's not going to exist, but we got our if statement still there. I guess it won't even let you do that anyway. Is there any way I can break it then? Got my checking for the existence of it there. If I do blank, no. But if I do a cancel, comes back here and see having this code here then still protects myself. No matter what, it checks for the existence. So good thing to have, even if you feel like you got that locked down. And that's an open file dialog. Again, when you see that, there's tons of code behind this open file. You do not want to write your own. You do not want to hard code it like I did initially. You will come up with something like that. Questions on that? Okay, so for the project, let's see, there's Notepad. We've looked at some different items here where we got our file open. Did the dialog box. We brought this in with the states and so forth. What I want is for you to have. We're going to expand upon this, so this is just to initially get you started and so forth. But I want you to have a list box where you can add or delete items from it, form it. And hopefully I'm not mixing you up with Java and C#. I have showed you how to add items to a list box, haven't I? Everybody saying no, so I assume I did. I know I did in Java, and I know I did in C#. I'm getting ready to in Introduction to Computer Science and JavaScript. Okay, so I have a list box where you can add or delete items from it. And the list box should be loaded in from a menu choice and saved from a different menu choice. So I have a list box here. I'm going to have a file and I'll have a load list box. And that reads the file in and loads it in. Then I should have buttons here and text boxes where I can add items to that list box or delete it. And then I should have a file save. And that'll save it, the items in the list box. Now, not append. I just want you to create the file new each time. This would be such that if you had, and it's a very crude way to do it, but if you had a text file you were trying to maintain, then you could do that. For example, I don't remember my wedding anniversary. I should. It's like September 25th, September 26th. I about missed it this year. My son's birthday is June 29th. My wife's birthday, I have no clue. It's in June, I think. Stepson's birthday is in August. I would really probably benefit from an application where I could save off my important dates. Nothing fancy, just text box where I could put in the date and then the person's or the description, and then it saves it into a text file for me. Now I know you're saying, "Oh, why just save it in Notepad?" Like, well, I do that with a lot of stuff, but that's kind of the idea I had on that. But anyway, that's a project for this week. There'll also be I'll put the test out there. Test will get into some of the particulars. What does a peak do exactly? And things I kind of glanced over, and it'll get into more details of how that works. I'm out of time. Minute over. Questions on anything? Okay, I might I'll let Stephen ask his question first. He signed up for the office hours during the 1:30, and then after he gets done, then I'll answer your questions. Oh, okay. We'll go ahead and ask your question then, Kyle. Wow, you're planning ahead. Are you gonna be gone or something during final exam week? Okay. Um, but usually I have in mind what the final project is because I kind of see how far we get. I always like if I have a class that really kind of goes above and beyond, then I'll cover extra material. Um, Sometimes some students struggle more in programming, so I slow it down a little bit. But I'll always know like a couple weeks before what the final project's going to be. I don't usually put it up until like a week before, but so yeah, if you right, if you need to know it early, I can tell you.